What's up, party people? Welcome to this episode of Sarah Uncut. I'm coming at you at my lunch hour and my suit might burn, but you know what? I felt like this was so important. I just had to stop what I was doing today, sit down and talk to y'all about a little something, something. If you're on my newsletter list, if you're not, hi, would you get your buns on over there, please? Just go to sarahwalton.com/freedom. It's a great one to sign up for. Let me tell you something. It's a freedom calculator. It's going to tell you exactly how much you need to make in your business to feel free. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Get on over there, my people. Anyway, hi. So on my newsletter list, about every 6 months, I like to check in with you guys and just say, hey, what's one thing I need to teach you? Like, what's something we need to be talking about that maybe we're not talking about? And I just did that, and I got the most interesting question. I just had to address it here. I just think it's so good. So the question is, can you be a great coach if you don't have a lot of friends? And at first I was like, bless you? Wait, what do you mean can you be a great coach if you don't have any friends? And then I started to think about it a little bit more. So I think we're going to chat about that today. That's right. So go watch our cute little intro and I'll see you here on the other side. Is the camera shaking? I think the camera's shaking. I put it on a cereal box. Listen, I get it done, okay? So can you be, I'm shaking the camera, right? People are gonna be like, I think she's in a car. I'm not in a car. Feels like I'm in a car. I'm not in a car. I'm just super hungry. I need to eat that soup. Okay, so here's the deal, my beautiful people. Can you be a great coach if you don't have a whole bunch of friends? Well, oh my gosh. So like I said, my first response was, well, duh, yeah, of course you can. Here's the thing about being a coach that I don't think we talk about enough. And I think this was sort of inside this question, so I really do want to address it. Being a coach is, and then like hanging out with your friends, right? It's kind of like being a therapist and hanging out with your friends. Like they're always like, can I be doing this better? Or is she thinking that I should be doing this better? Is she judging me for that? That's a real element to coaching that I don't think we talk about enough. And it can really pop up for people. Like I've had people say to me, because I love to talk about goal setting. I love to talk about how to stay consistently productive, how to make sure you're taking enough break time, how to make sure you're checking in on your relationships as much as you're checking in on your P&L. Like all these things are important. And so I've noticed sometimes when I'm out to dinner with my girlfriends or whatever, they'll be like, so I haven't done like a weekly review in like 6 months. So does that mean I'm a bad person? And it makes me laugh, right? I'm like, first of all, I'm not thinking about that right now. Yes, being a coach is kind of a 24/7 job if, in my humble opinion, you're a good coach, right? Because we've got to be walking the talk. And that is a really challenging part of being a coach, is that we don't have the luxury of pretending like we're perfect. You just can't do that. You have to be telling the truth about what's going on for you as much as you're telling the truth to your clients that they may not want to hear, right? They may not want to hear that they're actually not focusing on things that are going to move the P&L forward. They're like, but I like this pet project that takes up all my time and money and doesn't produce any outcome. It's like, that's nice, but that's not where we're going to focus right now. So that's hard to say to people sometimes, that we have to do stuff like that for ourselves too, right? Or it's like, look, it's really great that your business is booming, but you're kind of a jackwagon to all of your friends and family. You need to pay attention to your whole life, not just your business, and vice versa when your life falls apart. As you guys know, I talk about all the time, right? Like when life happens, what do you do? This is a thing we need to talk about. So when that happens, how do you show up as a coach? These are all real life questions. And I think this question sort of bumped into that. Like, how do I maintain friendships? How do I stay friends with people if they're constantly concerned I'm judging them? If they're constantly concerned, I'm like, but did you do your homework? I get that. I really do. And here's the thing, for your lifelong friends, right? For people who've been your friends for a long extended period of time, they view this as your profession and they know who you are. But I will say, even my friends, they've been my friends for years, long time, right? They will come to me and say, listen, my boss just said this, or I think I want to change jobs, right? And they're my bestest friends. I'll talk to them about that because they know I have these conversations day in and day out, and I can see pitfalls, or I can ask them questions that can prompt them down a different path. So that is part of being a coach who has really great friends. That's just what's going to happen, and you have to accept that piece. So part two, okay, is that sometimes when you're a coach, people don't like you. That part sucks, right? Like, I mean, I'm looking at some of my idols, like people I love and adore, like as much as I think I know them. So my mentors, right? There's my personal coach whom I love and adore, but we're not friends, right? Like I wouldn't call her and be like, yo, did you see the Spider-Man movie? Like, no, not appropriate, right? She's not my friend. She's my coach. I love her, but she's my coach. She's not my friend. I go to my girlfriends for talk about Spider-Man. No, I don't. I mostly talk to my son about that. My girlfriends don't care. I'm weird. Anyway, I want you to think about people like Tony Robbins, right? So the guy who basically invented coaching. I don't think I'd want to have dinner with him on a Friday night. Tony, if you're watching, call me. We can have dinner on Friday night. But as a rule, I actually don't think he'd be my bestie, right? We don't have the same type of personality. We don't have the same types of conversations that I would want to be having with my girlfriends at a moment when I'm relaxing. So Tony, if you're having a mastermind or something, dudes, I'm totally in. Like, call me. But if you want to hang out, I'd probably rather hang out with my girlfriends. Does that make sense? Like my lifelong girlfriends or my soccer mom girlfriends, right? Like these are people that I really enjoy spending time with to not work. Okay. And I think that's something we have to recognize is that being a coach does not mean you are likable. It doesn't, because sometimes as a coach, one, it's not appropriate for you to be friends with your clients. They're your clients, right? You can love them, but they're your clients. But the second part of that is as a coach, you cannot be worried about whether the person you're working with likes you or not. That is not your job. Your job is to cause transformation for that person. Your job is to help them get out of their own way so that they can get the results they need. Your job is not to have them like you. And if you are putting your ego in front of the work, you've got a problem and you probably shouldn't be a coach. And that's hard. Like, I'm not saying that flippantly. That's really hard to like let go of the idea that people should like you because we all want to be liked, right? We all want to be like, oh my God, they love me. Okay, but the problem with that is if you're doing that on social media or you're doing that on YouTube or you're doing that where places where people compliment you or they love what you're doing, if you believe the positive, you have to believe the negative too. So your job as a coach is to put out the best stuff you can to help as many people as possible and then to let go. Because it's their job at that point to pull that to them. Okay, so that's like for the social media out there world, the people that you don't necessarily know, but they might be consuming what you're saying, right? So you got to put the best stuff out there that you can and then sort of let it go. For those who you're working with one-on-one, again, you can't worry, or even group programs as well, you can't worry about whether or not they like you. That's not the point. And I'm going to say that. That's the second time I've said it, I know. And I'm going to say it probably one more time because it's really important for you to understand that is ego-based. That is not being a great coach. I'll be honest with you guys. Sometimes with my one-on-one clients, it gets a little heated, right? Like I have to get in there with them and have them recognize that they are fighting for their victimhood. They are fighting for a drop in revenue. Like, no, I want to keep it this way because it's like, what are you doing? Is that serving people, right? Like, that's a tough conversation to have. And in that moment, if you're worried about being liked instead of worried about causing results, you're going to have a problem. Does that make sense? Like, again, going back to Tony Robbins, right? The father of coaching, the guy who sort of invented this entire industry we're all loving right now, right? Look at him on stage. That dude is not always likable. And there's times he's gone too far and made mistakes, right? But it's not in his best interest for you to want to like him. It's in his best interest and the person he's working with, it's in their best interest that he actually causes the pop, the transformation, the insight, the clarity that is needed for that person to excel. So that's my two-part answer to the question, can you be a great coach if you don't have a bunch of friends? The answer is, of course you can. Of course you can. And cultivate relationships outside of your work. Even though it's harder for those of us that are coaches because we've got to be walking our talk, right? We're not somebody who clocks in and out, right? Like let's say you are an extraordinary candle maker. If you're out to dinner, you're not worried about making candles in that conversation, right? Someone might ask your advice. Do you like beeswax? Do you like the long wick? Do you like the short wick? Is soy better? Like, right? That they may ask you questions about your work, but you're not actively creating in that moment. And as a coach, sometimes that can happen. Does that make sense? So I get that. So you want to seek out friends that can allow you to release from your work and actually just hang out. Sometimes as a coach, that's tricky, but find that. And then also understand that your clients are not your friends, nor should they be, right? That's not being of service to them. You can love them, and you can appreciate them, but they're not your friends. I hope that makes sense. All right, it's a tough conversation, I know. I hope this was super, super helpful. I so appreciate this question. And now I'm gonna go eat my soup because I really do think I burned it. It's a really good white bean spinach I made. All right, guys, see you next week.